Lindsay made these searches?
But you don't know that it was Lindsay that was actually using that computer to search for Tom Hall, right?
I don't know who was sitting.
I don't know who was sitting behind that computer. That was the answer from a forensic examiner under oath when asked if Lindsay Clancy made the suicide. Related searches that prosecutors built their case around. Not a denial, not a confirmation, a gap in the record, and that gap is now the most contested piece of evidence in this trial.
I think I sort of resent my other children because they prevent me from...
Think of a computer keyboard with no one's fingerprints on it, not because the fingerprints were wiped, but because no one ever established who was actually pressing the keys. That is the state of the digital evidence here, a string of searches, a timestamp, an IP address, and no proof of the human hand behind them.
The intensity of the Lindsay Clancy trial will not let up, both inside the courtroom and out. Lindsay Clancy now stands trial for 3 counts of murder.
Lindsay Clancy stands trial for 3 counts of murder: 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and an 8-month-old Callan. The prosecution says she planned it. The defense says she did it, but was not criminally responsible. And between those two positions sits a mountain of search history that both sides are fighting over.
Did you have an opportunity to examine the extraction of a Surface Pro that was seized from 47 Summer Street in Duxbury on or about September 16th, 2025?
I did.
And to be clear, the Surface Pro was seized from 47 Duxbury Street in 2023. It was in 2025 that you examined the extraction.
Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to True Crime Court. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. The state's case depends on a timeline of intent. And that timeline begins not with a confession, but with a Surface Pro seized from the Clancy home.
Correct?
That is correct. I was provided those files.
Did your initial review of the extraction show a visit to a website entitled Suicide Methods on August 23rd, 2022?
It did.
Forensic examiner Kyle Pavo told the court that his initial review showed a visit to a website titled Suicide Methods on August 23, 2022, 5 months before the children were killed. The prosecution wants you to believe Lindsay was researching how to die and how to kill long before January 24, 2023.
So with regard to this case and looking into how that site, Suicide Methods, was accessed, what did you learn? Or what did you see?
When I went back?
Yeah, so go ahead.
So I saw, the first thing I saw was a Facebook visit at 9:40 that morning.
9:40 a.m. on August 23rd, 2022?
Correct.
And what was the Facebook?
But when Pavo was asked to look deeper, 12 hours before and 12 hours after that suicide search, he found a different sequence entirely. The first thing on the machine that morning was a visit to Lindsay's Facebook page at 9:40 a.m. 2 minutes later, a Spotify search for country singer Tom Hall, then a song, then a Google search for Tom Hall, then Wikipedia, then a click on the death section of his page.
To remember, Lindsay's Facebook was visited first before there was a search made for Tom Hall. Now, Tom Hall was a country singer who was inducted to both the Country Music Hall of Fame and the International Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame. On August 20th, 2021, he died by suicide.
Tom Hall was a Country Music Hall of Fame and International Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame inductee. He died by suicide on August 20, 2021. The path from listening to a Tom Hall song to reading about his death to landing on a Suicide Methods page is not a straight line of criminal intent. It is a rabbit hole.
Here's where defense attorney Kevin Reddington came in for cross, not wasting a second.
That's it? That's your testimony? That's why you're here today, to talk about a search that was involving Tom Hall, or Tim Hall?
Sustained, if you could...
So I apologize. Your testimony today is based on that search on August 23rd, right?
Correct.
Of 22, right? And you were working as a state police officer back then, right?
Yes, sir.
And were you attached to the Plymouth County DA's office, or were you working somewhere else?
I was assigned to the cybercrime unit.
And the cybercrime unit works with the DA's office in Plymouth?
The cybercrime unit's its own independent statewide unit.
That's when defense attorney Kevin Reddington stood up. He did not argue with the data. He argued with the story the prosecution had wrapped around it. His cross-examination began with a simple question about whose computer the searches were made on, and the answer changed the temperature in the room.
Reddington makes note of whose computer the searches were made on.
So you were tasked to analyze the computer, the Surface Pro computer, right?
Yes, correct.
And by all accounts, that was owned by Pat Clancy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And it was located in his office, right?
I don't know where it was located.
Okay. It's fair to say that when you analyzed the computer back in September, October of 2025,
The Surface Pro belonged to Patrick Clancy, not Lindsay. It was his computer. The examiner was working from a search warrant with specific search terms he could not recall without his report. The machinery of investigation had already decided what to look for before anyone asked who should be looked at.
Page, kind of insinuating it was Lindsay who made these searches, but Kevin Reddington poses a different theory.
and one of the things that you did is you noted that on August 23rd of 2022, at 9:40 and 08 seconds, that there was an access to the Lindsay Facebook account, right?
Oh, there was a visit to that page, correct.
Right. And then that page continued on to look for Tom Hall and Walking to Memphis or whatever and the songs, right?
Yes.
On Spotify?
Yeah, the song, yes, after that was a Spotify.
And then the time frame of that would be that you went and went to a hyperlink that took them to methods of suicide. Is that?
The prosecution's implication was clear. Lindsay's Facebook page was visited first, so Lindsay must have been the one searching. But Reddington walked the witness through a different interpretation. The Facebook page was visited, then Tom Hall, then Spotify, then Wikipedia, then the suicide method's anchor. That is not a plan. That is a person going down a music-fueled internet spiral.
No, there was not.
To your knowledge, and I understand that you might be stuck with what you investigated, but are you aware that there were any searches from Lindsay Clancy or Patrick Clancy on ways to kill? You ever heard that?
In my initial report back in October, that contains all of the evidence artifacts that I had tagged as evidence and provided, I did not come across that, no.
Right. So basically, what you are leaving with the jury would be that on that date of August 23rd, at approximately 9:40 in the morning, and then carrying forward with jumping from Tom Hall to the Wikipedia account to the underlined name, suicide, jumping to that page, that all occurred between 9:40 and, say, 10 o'clock in the morning, right?
And here is what the search history did not contain. No search for ways to kill. No search for how to murder children. No search for violence against the victims. If this was a premeditated murder plan, the most obvious searches are absent. What exists instead is a trail that leads from a song to a singer's death to a suicide methods page.
Did you know, sir, that on August 23rd, prior to your report indicating the Facebook account, that Mr. Clancy signed in, and it was Mr. Clancy's email that accessed the Facebook account for Lindsay Clancy?
I did not.
And that was not included in your report, was it?
No, it was not.
And you know that the Clancys had 3 children, right?
I did.
Then Reddington dropped the fact that should have been in the examiner's report from the beginning. On August 23, 2022, at 9:40 a.m., Patrick Clancy's email was signed into Lindsay's Facebook account. Not Lindsay, Patrick. The examiner did not know this. It was not in his report. The prosecution had built a story around a user who may not have been Lindsay at all.
And did you know, sir, that on August 23rd of 2022, that 2-year-old child was brought by Lindsay to South Shore Health for Dawson's ear recheck, that he had problems with congestion, but no complaints of ear pain, no fever. And that was on August 23rd, 2022, that he was examined at 10:15 in the morning?
I'm not privy to those facts.
And there's more. At 10:15 that same morning, while the suicide searches were still being made, Lindsay was at South Shore Health with her 2-year-old son Dawson for an ear recheck, a medical record placing her in a doctor's office at the same time the prosecution's digital timeline placed her in front of a screen. The paperwork already knew.
So you don't know that Patrick Clancy's email signed into Lindsay Clancy's Facebook account. You're not aware of that, right?
It's whatever the default profile was signed into the Chrome browser.
And then that accessed the Facebook account, which looked up Tom Hall, the singer, right?
Yes, correct.
That then led to the Wikipedia talking about suicide.
That is
right?
correct.
Led to the Spotify talking about somewhere in Memphis, whatever the song was, right?
Yes.
And this was all occurring from 9:40 in the morning until, like I said, 10 o'clock thereabouts, right?
Correct.
You tagged actual data from the Surface Pro as well as the HP laptop, right?
I did.
And in your July 26 report, you then went into detail about your findings, correct?
Yes.
And we would agree that that particular webpage was not a search for methods of suicide. It was actually the Tom Hall and the music, right?
That is correct.
And then the URL shows access to Lindsay's Facebook profile, correct? You accessed and found out that Lindsay's Facebook profile
was a web visit.
Right.
Yes, correct.
But you don't know that it was Lindsay that was actually using that computer to search for Tom Hall, right?
Reddington did not stop. He asked the examiner point blank if he knew who was sitting behind the computer. The answer, I don't know who was sitting behind that computer. He asked if the examiner knew Patrick Clancy played guitar. No. If Patrick was a music fan. No. If Patrick liked Tom Hall. No. The investigation never asked those questions because the investigation had already decided the answer.
In front of me.
The defense also highlighted that leading up to the children's deaths, Lindsay seemingly searched for a plethora of mental health diagnoses and medications.
Now we're jumping ahead to December 5, not August of 22, December of 22. One of the inquiries of the Google searches was what to do when a psychiatrist overprescribed, right?
Yes.
Searches for medications, right?
Yes.
Including Lamictal, right?
Correct.
Can bipolar disorder be temporary, right?
Yes.
Can benzos reveal bipolar disorder, right?
Yes.
How long are detox programs, right?
Yes.
What is DBT? I'm just saying that's a search. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I had to look that one up, too.
Okay. Lamictal versus it says Zolafy, but I would suggest it would be Zoloft. That was a search, right?
Yes, correct.
What is mania? It was a search, right?
Yes.
Ketamine for benzo withdrawal. January 18th of 2023 was a search, right?
Yes.
Ketamine therapy on January 18th of 2023, correct?
The defense shifted to a different set of searches, ones made closer to the children's deaths in December 2022 and January 2023. Searches for bipolar disorder. Searches for medication side effects. Searches for what to do when a psychiatrist overprescribes. Searches for detox programs and ketamine for benzo withdrawal. These are not the searches of a person planning murder. These are the searches of a person drowning in her own treatment.
Yes.
The Commonwealth also called another forensics expert to the stand who testified he did an extraction of Lindsay's cell phone back in 2023. Just 4 days before the children were killed, she allegedly made a startling search.
And so if we go here to page 846 of the document, can you explain for us here, is this web history, website visits that are documented on the phone?
That's one of the categories listed as an artifact. The items shown here on the screen are all associated with web browsing.
And here where we see 10773 and 10774, and they both state, can you treat a sociopath? Those are two entries that have basically the same search term, correct?
Yes.
And that was on January 20th, 2023?
Yes.
And they both say 8:28:29 p.m. So is it possible to do two searches at the same time like it is displayed there.
But then there is the search that cuts the other way. 4 days before the children were strangled, on January 20, 2023, someone searched, "Can you treat a sociopath?" twice, at 8:28 and 8:29 p.m. It is a search that cannot easily be explained as medication anxiety or postpartum fear. It suggests a mind asking a darker question about someone else, or about itself.
I'm sad and depressed because I am not able to parent my third child like my first. I want to treat any one of my babies like my first, but I know that's not a feasible possibility. I'm sad that I stopped breastfeeding. I feel not as connected with Cal now. I think I sort of resent my other children because they prevent me from treating Cal like my first baby, and I know that's not fair to them. I know that. I was feeling so depressed last evening when Cora and Dawson came home from school. I know it runs off on them, so we had a pretty rough evening. I want to feel love and connection with all my kids. I'm also probably having a bit of an internal conflict because my whole life I wanted to have a lot of kids. I still don't want Cal to be our last, but I have a lot of figuring out to do before I have another. I'm on the fence about starting a new medication for anxiety/depression. I just want to feel happy. I want to be able to relax and take care of my kids. And when they go to bed at night, I want to deeply relax and hang out with Pat and then fall into a deep sleep for 8 hours, get up, and pour hard into myself for an hour and a half. Cal was so very planned and desired. I want to be able to give him all the love he deserves. I guess that's what it's like to be the third child, though. He's not the first third child to ever exist.
Then there are the notes. A journal entry from October 24, 2022, edited on November 3, but with no record of what changed. In it, Lindsay wrote, "I think I sort of resent my other children because they prevent me from treating Cal like my first baby." The prosecution reads this as motive. The defense reads this as the unfiltered confession of a woman already disintegrating under postpartum depression.
Lindsay seemingly made another note titled, "Medication Stole Motherhood and My Life." She created this note on December 22nd, 2022, and modified it on January 3rd, 2023, just one day before the children were strangled. It reads, "I was the healthiest, happiest mom. I worked out every morning, meditated, took care of myself so I could be the best for my kids. Until prescription medication stole me from my own body. It began with a touch of postpartum anxiety. The baby wouldn't take a bottle and I was due to go back to work. He was on a strict nap schedule to get him to sleep through the night. I had 3 young kids to take care of and was a touch anxious. So I did what you do. Asked a psychiatrist for some Zoloft. It took me weeks to take it, but I finally took the plunge. I took 25 milligrams for 1 week, and then on the 7th day I increased to 50 milligrams as instructed by my doctor. Well, that night, I couldn't sleep a wink. I did take the medication at night and didn't know I was supposed to, but still, not a wink. I called my psychiatrist the next morning. She said to stop taking it. The second night, I barely slept too. She prescribed Ativan and Benadryl to fall asleep for the next night. That's when everything started going downhill. I took those meds to sleep for 2.5 weeks until the Zoloft was out of my system, and then weaned off the Ativan, followed by the Benadryl. And then once I tried not taking anything, I couldn't fall asleep and stay asleep. I'd become dependent on the Ativan to sleep, but didn't realize it. I went to the ER at South Shore because of palpitations and insomnia. My EKG was normal, and they prescribed trazodone for the insomnia.
Another note titled, "Medication Stole Motherhood and My Life," written December 20, 2022, and modified January 3, 2023, 3 weeks before the children died. She describes being prescribed Zoloft, then Ativan, then trazodone. She describes insomnia, palpitations, and ER visit. She describes a body that stopped belonging to her. This is not a document of criminal intent. It is a document of a woman documenting her own disappearance.
During this half of the testimony, the prosecution also highlighted Lindsay's Apple Maps searches. They say these searches show premeditation, alleging she wanted Patrick out of the house so she could murder the kids.
If we could go to 4:13 p.m. And here in Apple Maps, do we see 3V restaurant at 4:13 p.m.?
Yes.
And when you're using a map feature to look up a location, such as Apple Maps, what type of information do you learn when you plug in a location or an address into Apple Maps?
A route preview.
And does that route preview give you a length of time it would take to travel to that location?
Depending on what you indicate as your originating location, yes.
And so if you plug in 3V restaurant to Apple Maps and it maps out a route to get there, does it tell you from your location to 3V how long it would take to get there?
Based on traffic
And then the Apple Maps searches. The prosecution says Lindsay looked up distances from home to a CVS and a restaurant to calculate how long Patrick would be gone. They call it premeditation. But the defense has an answer: she had days alone with the children when Patrick was in New York. Why would she need a 45-minute errand window? The map search proves timing, but it does not prove intent.
Yes.
When it was time for the defense questioning of the witness, more shocking searches came out. For instance,
You had access to her phone, right?
Yes, sir.
And you all went into it with a search warrant, right?
Yes, sir.
And you were looking for different topics, such as suicide, drugs, killing kids, I imagine, to investigate, right? You had buzzwords.
Yes, sir.
And did you come across, for example, a search that indicates carotid artery?
I don't recall.
Did you come across a search on Safari, how to slit your throat to die?
I don't recall.
Did you come across a search, can you turn airbags off on Kia Sorento?
I don't recall.
Did you know that she had a Kia Sorento?
I did not.
here's where the conspiracy theories get going again. Some people have posed the question, why would Lindsay, a labor and delivery nurse, have to Google how to slit your own throat or cutting your carotid artery? They theorize Lindsay would already know this about the human body based on her training and schooling. So if it wasn't Lindsay searching this, could it have been someone else hoping to plot her murder? There's another question in here too about the Kia Sorento. Now that is the vehicle that Lindsay drove, but why make a search about the airbags? Was this an ill-fated plan to murder Lindsay and make it look like a crash? Again, nothing here is substantiated or confirmed or even brought up in court, but testimony like this has got people talking online.
So what's the first search on the first box?
The value associated with the source file is carotid artery.
And the next box?
How to slit your throat to die.
And the next box?
Can you turn airbags off on Kia Sorento?
And these all came from Lindsay's phone, right?
I can't confirm that.
Well, it's a pretty good inference, right?
Then more searches emerge from Lindsay's phone, searches that complicate everything. How to slit your throat to die. Can you turn airbags off on a Kia Sorento? The prosecution says these are suicide planning. Conspiracy theorists say these are evidence of Patrick plotting to kill Lindsay. The examiner admitted he could not confirm who made those searches either. The paperwork already knew.
Yeah.
And so did she have, as we learned in law school and when we watched Legally Blonde, the mens rea, the mental intent to kill someone. So, you know, that's what this trial is about that state right there. And so that could support it and it could hurt it. It could show plan and preparation on the one side, but it also could show maybe that she knew that she had to do this because of what those voices were telling her, and she was trying to do it in the way that would be the most effective.
You brought up
Horrible
something
thoughts.
that I think something gets really lost in all of this, Krista, and it's that the defense does not.
Here is the ticking clock moment. If the state cannot prove who made the most incriminating searches, and the defense concedes Lindsay killed her children, but argues she was not criminally responsible, then the entire case turns on a single question: what is more dangerous? A guilty person escaping punishment, or an innocent person being convicted for searches she may not have made?
Not deny that Lindsay Clancy killed the kids. They straight up admit that she did, but they're saying she's not criminally responsible because of this psychosis or mental break. And a lot of people online are saying she didn't kill the kids. Patrick Clancy wasn't investigated thoroughly enough by Massachusetts investigators, whatever it may be. But to your point, that's not what the defense is saying at all. They're just saying her mental status at the time. And I think it just, again, gets going with all the conspiracy theories. Like, for instance, that singer Tom Hall. So there was, a search to his Wikipedia page, and it kind of led to his death. He died by suicide, and that led to other searches, the rabbit hole, so to speak, of suicide. But then it turns out that it seemingly was Patrick who made that search, not Lindsay. And this is tricky because online people are thinking it's a conspiracy.
The defense does not deny Lindsay killed her children. They admit it. Their entire argument is that she was in a state of postpartum psychosis and not criminally responsible for her actions. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is the legal defense on the record. And it means the search history is not about whether she did it. It is about what was happening in her mind when she did.
At the time, and that, switches the burden to the prosecution. In Massachusetts, the prosecution has to disprove almost the defense of self-defense by, not self-defense, but
criminal responsibility.
Yeah, criminal responsibility by reason of insanity. So it's the way Massachusetts law works is a little bit different. The burden always remains with the state. So I think that you're going to hear some pretty powerful evidence, and Redding has already proven himself to be able to take witnesses that the prosecution thought were their witnesses, and on cross-examination made them defense witnesses. Already we've seen that. So I think that we're going to see more of that. He's a very skilled litigator and is doing such a great job for his client.
Yeah, you brought up a good point with the criminal responsibility, because when I was first researching this case, I had to read the statute like 3 or 4 times to fully understand. It's a huge uphill burden that the Commonwealth has to prove that she was criminally responsible. And to your point, Kevin Reddington has done a great job so far. Both sides are bringing all that they have. I guess we're just going to have to see where it takes us. Krista Ramey, thank you for coming on Scandal. I know you've been following this case since the beginning, so thank you for your insight.
Absolutely. Thank you. Always pleasure to be here with you.
We'll continue to follow this case and bring you the latest updates right here on Scandal.
In Massachusetts, the burden never shifts. The prosecution must prove criminal responsibility beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense does not have to prove she was insane. The state has to prove she was not. That is a high bar. And every search that has a question mark next to it, every timestamp that could be Patrick instead of Lindsay, is weight on the prosecution's back. The paperwork already knew. And now the jury has to decide what it means.
And for complete coverage of the trial, make sure to tune into Law and Crime, where we're streaming this case with gavel-to-gavel coverage. And that is where today's episode of Scandal leaves us for now. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, connect with me on social media. You can find me on places like Instagram @SierraGillespie. Thanks for watching today's episode of Scandal.
The full forensic extraction reports are available through the court record for this case. Go look at the search warrant return for yourself. Read the timestamps. Read the email login records. Then come back and tell us in the comments whose hand do you think was on that keyboard, and does it even matter for the legal question of criminal responsibility? Like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications for True Crime Court. Because the evidence is always where the story turns.